Thank you guys for being here. I'm very proud to be here and to be able to talk with my friend Martyna. And she is actually not only entrepreneur and she's CEO of Syntoil, but also she is an amazing person and she really cares about what's happening to our planet. And she really cares. It's authentic. And she's running, for example, a podcast about businesses, other businesses that are doing something good for the planet. And she's talking with others, she's getting inspirations, she's supporting. So from my perspective, it's really something that I appreciate. And thank you that we have this opportunity to share your vision. We have only 20 minutes, so we need to be brief. So I will try to ask you some tough questions, okay? If that's
Just
okay for you.
not too tough. It's
not too tough. Okay. Tell us about your product.
All right. So not very tough. I live.
Warm up.
All right. Warm up question. So what we do is. It's quite complicated. That's why we usually just say people that we recycle tires into rubber again. And it's like the most simple thing you can say about our project. But this is not exactly what we do. What we exactly do is that we clean contaminated soot or a char. It's just a black, simple powder into a product, so a waste into a product. When people are recycling tires, they are getting few products like oil, gas, contaminated char or soot, and steel. And usually this contaminated soot is a huge problem. They are just sending it directly to cement plants to be burned because they cannot clean it and it's a waste for them, it's a problem. And now, for example, in Poland, they have to pay money if you are keeping waste on your property, especially in the industry, you need to pay some fee for that. So what we are doing, we are just taking this waste from them and clean it into recovered carbon black. This is the real name of what we do, and a real name of our. No, it's recovered carbon black, because carbon black, you can use this term only for product which is made in a traditional way, which means that you need to burn fossil fuels, mostly crude oil, to obtain the carbon black. And when you are obtaining carbon black from the alternative source, you can call it recovered carbon black. And this is exactly what we do. We produce recovered carbon black, and then this recovered carbon black is being applied to rubber again, or as pigment, or you name it. There are like thousands of applications.
It's not that difficult. I mean, and she's very good in pitching. And to give you some facts, Martyna, representing Syntoil, won Polish Shiva's the Venture, which is quite popular. But what is more important, she was second in the world finals of Shiva's the Venture. And of course, Shiva's the Venture is about promoting impactful entrepreneurs and startups. So that's a proof of her skills, but also skills.
Yeah, but
I have only one question. Does it mean that your technology is it's called disruptive technology, right?
Oh, it is disruptive technology, in fact, because it is the last step for used tires to become recycled in a circular economy. Because there are a lot of tire recyclers all over the world who are just recycling tires for different products, but they are sending the contaminated soot, so this black simple powder, to burn. And we don't want them to burn it because it's a completely good product. But as you can imagine, I didn't use the word recovered carbon black on the stage of Shiva's Venture. I was talking about the tires.
And to add on the top of that, these guys in the process are reducing CO2 emission 5 times.
So normally when you are obtaining the carbon black in this traditional way of burning fossil fuels, you produce 6 tons of CO2 per 1 ton of carbon black. And in our process, it's not less than, it's not more than 1 ton of CO2 per 1 ton of carbon black. But it's not satisfying for us. It's not our last word. On the next level of our development, we are going to use all CO2 which we are producing again in the process, because like our bet is that only companies which are sustainable will survive, and we could saw that like 300 years ago or even before in the 19th century, companies which didn't transform due to technological revolution failed. In 20th century, like all the companies which didn't fit into new technologies, like I know, like Nokia, like Kodak or whatever, they failed and they are not with us anymore. And I think, and my bet is that in 21st century, the companies which won't be sustainable, they will fail also, and they will also collapse. And this is my bet.
Hopefully, yes. That's a good point, guys. Just to give you some imagination, I love this example. It's yours, but I will just say it. Imagine that every year we have 1 billion used tires that we need to do something with. And if you would like to build a bridge between Earth and the Moon, you can use those 1 year tires to do it. It's like 380,000 kilometers. We are talking about waste, which is a huge problem. So solving this problem is impactful, yes? It's amazing. I will skip the patents and some R&D stuff that you're working on. Please tell me how you came up with the idea of this business.
All right, so I didn't establish the company because the company was established in 2015. I was doing a blockchain startup before. So I joined the startup 2 years ago, like 2 year and something ago. But my partners, my co-founders, they've met on the landfill. They were running a landfill, and they were into waste management. And their first idea was that they wanted to recycle plastic, but there's a problem with plastic. At this time, it was very, very expensive to segregate. Is there such a word in English? Segregate them, because there's no such a thing as one plastic. You have like thousands of types of it, and it was like not possible at this time. But what they saw was that tires are not so different. Like one tire is not so different from another one. Of course, there are some differences between like industrial and passenger car tires, but not so huge. And they just tried to see what kind of technologies are available on the market, and they found out that all those technologies are broken. Like the system is working, but it's inherently broken. First thing was the sustainability, like who was using the word sustainability in 2015? Like no one. You, like, where are you from?
In US.
I've been here 7 years, but I'm from Ohio.
And you had this word in Ohio in 2015. All right, so we in Europe didn't, or we didn't use it as often as it should be used. And the second problem was that they are not economical. Like most of them, it's really crazy, but all those recycling companies doing recycling tires are not as profitable as anyone can imagine. Like, I'm really curious, like, how do they living? Because the amounts that they are earning are really, really small. So I don't know, how is it working? Well, I know a part of their income is illegal, but who would tell that to the world?
Martyna Sztaba. Martyna, tell us, what is driving you?
What is driving me?
Yeah, what
here?
is driving
a
you
bike.
No, what is driving you in your life? What is pushing you forward? What is giving you like the energy to change the world?
Like the real driver.
Yes.
All right, so the real driver was the same thing which made me to join Centoil. In fact, one of the co-founders is my father, and as you know, it's not the best thing in the world to work with your parents. So when Bogdan, who is my co-founder, called me those years ago, and his first question was like, "Why would join us? There are a lot of money," and I said, "Well, I already have money and I'm earning really good money, so it's like no point for me to work with you just for money." So he waited. He called me after a few weeks and he said, "We have such an amazing team." And I said like, "What? I have amazing team everywhere in the world. I don't need to work with my father to get it, but because Bogdan knows me for 35 years, 34, he called me and said, all right, tires, CO2, circular economy. And I was like, I could do that. Like, this is the only reason which I can think of which would make me to work with the family, which we all know is hardcore. It's hardcore. But it's worth it. For this one reason, it's worth it. I cannot find any else. Like, when I'm thinking about, like, what do I think about the previous generation? What do I think about the generation of my parents and my grandparents? I think they failed. I wouldn't like my, I wouldn't like children of my friends to tell exactly the same thing about me and about my generation and about our generation, because I'm not a failure, and I wouldn't like to anyone to tell those things about my generation. So this is my driver.
Isn't she great? Where would be Centoili in like 5 or 10 years? Because this is really important, because you are working on, you are developing something for a reason. You raise some money. Is this enough to help you to be at the point where you want to be, or you are looking like in a couple of years or months for a bigger investment? What's your need and to achieve those goals? I mean, what? Yeah.
All right. So our strategy in raising money, it's a little bit different than usually startups are saying that they're doing. For example, I don't have to raise a lot of money in a very short time. I can wait a little bit, but I want smart money, and not in a meaning smart money because like everyone are saying smart money. By smart money, I mean I need. It was the first thing. All right, so we won a contest organized by TDJP Tango, a Polish fund, Polish-Israeli fund, few weeks ago. And Daniel, who is the partner in this fund, he asked me, like, why would I like to work with them? And I said, listen, choosing a VC is like choosing, is like a marriage for me, and there is a reason why I don't have a husband. And I really need to trust you. I need to see that we share exactly the same values, that we have exactly the same plan, and that, like values are really important for me. And as you can imagine, it's not the word which is very often used in the VC world. Usually when I say like, hey, our company is diversified and our bet is sustainability, diversity, like all those things which are important for me. And when I see that the VC partners are smiling or laughing, I know that there won't be any marriage there. So my strategy is like, I can wait a little bit, but I want to find the best partners I can have, because VC's monies are the most expensive money on the market. So if I can leverage that with non-equity, with prizes, with grants, whatever, I will do that.
You're a team of 11.
Sorry,
Yeah.
question. There is the agenda called Clean Tech VCs.
Yeah.
So maybe this is the way you can go and look around for some of them.
We are looking for those one. We are also looking into a group of impact-based VCs. There are a few in Europe, also in States. We are too early for States for funds from United States, but we are looking all over Europe. Well, in fact, it's my dream to, our solution is not only for Poland needs, because here, like Poland is the 5th biggest polluter in tire industry in European Union, but this problem is global, and the first thing I want to do is to go outside. Like Poland is like more like a test market for us, but I would like to solve this problem in a bigger scale, not just in Poland. So I'm looking outside also. So I will check also this list.
Guys, if this is interesting for you, I really, I really love the website of Syntoil, syntoil.pl. You can go there, it's Polish and English, and it's really very simple. And I think it's a good benchmark for many businesses to have.
Can I say one thing about the
You're
site?
changing the site?
I am changing the site because, of course, I'm changing, but it's like we are not a software company, and we are like technology-based company, which means that our technology is kind of secret, and it's very important for us to keep it secret. But what I want, and I want it to be as simple as possible, because the biggest information, the widest information, the most deep information I found about this business when I was trying to learn about everything here in this area was at my competitor's webpage. Really, like everything I needed was exactly there. So I don't like, maybe those companies are run by people who don't know that the internet exists and everyone can have an access to them. But everything I got in the first months, I knew about this market and about technologies were from my competitors' websites. That's why our website is as simple as possible. If someone has a question, he can write directly to me.
It's a good point, but it's still very clear. Yeah,
Yeah.
so we can have that.
It's very clear, but
feeling.
minimum.
And if you are interested in Martyna's podcast, go to
Spotify, iTunes, or you name it. It's everywhere, and it's called Muda Talks. Unfortunately, it's in Polish, but it's for a reason in Polish. It's because there are not many reasonable and good sources of this kind of knowledge in Poland. That's why we choose Polish as a main language. Muda, M-U-D-A, M-U-D-A, Talks.
Muda Talks. And the goal within this podcast is to promote other entrepreneurs, startups,
And
experts who are doing actually the same, who share the same values.
Yeah.
Like what?
Oh, like what values? All right, so before I will answer that, I will just tell you a really strange thing which I just found out about our podcast, is that 80% of our listeners are women in age of between 16 and 25. It's so amazing. It's amazing. So I was like really happy with that, because it means that the youngest generation, like the only generation in which I see hope, really listen and they're really interested in that. And we are also very proud of it, because in just a few weeks since we started, we are just reaching 4,000 lists? Yeah. So it's really great news for us. And those values, all right, so we started with, we have some scientists and experts. Most of them are women, of course, because I don't know why, but more and more women, and in fact the majority of the experts in this field are women. I don't know, like, how is it possible?
Same with vegans. 75% of vegans are women.
Really?
Yes.
So it's the next proof
Are you a vegan?
of course.
You
Of
too?
course.
Guys?
So
More aware or something like that.
maybe, or they just care, you know, like maybe they just care about other people and about the planet, and yeah, maybe.
Guys,
maybe
I don't
that's
eat
it.
meat too.
No, there are some males
I'm
also
not that
who are
strict. I
also into
sometimes
that.
eat, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for your questions and engagement, and it was great to have you here for a couple of hours. We actually met in person today, so it's an honor, and thank you very much. And this is Thursday Gathering Talks, so I hope to see you next month. Take care.
Thank you, Artur.